My guest today is an amazing actor who has done great work on stage and screen. She starred in the CBS police drama Under Suspicion and is featured in films such as What Happened Was, Simple Men, Stuff, and T11 Incomplete. She is the great Karen Sillas. Karen, it is such an honor to be talking with you today.
You too, Sam. Good to be here.
Well, that is great to hear. And I saw that you recently worked as a creative producer on this short film called Finding Pa. What was it like getting to work behind the camera?
Well, it was a love project. I had met the filmmaker Enrique Lebron at a film festival the year prior, and I was so drawn to him and the short he had done then, and he was so timid and shy, and this big, tall Puerto Rican man, amputee. And I just was so intrigued by him that and his story that I felt like he needed to I wanted to help him tell his story of family healing, generational trauma. I'd never produced before. I always had this idea that I would, but I was so drawn to him and his message that I said, I'm going to help you. So I helped him conceptualize, conceive, write, cast, on the set, of course, helping with whatever he needed, kind of a little bit of directing, a little bit of AD, a little bit of everything. And it was amazing. I just love it. I love being, besides being on stage and on a film set, well, and a yoga studio and a kitchen that I love cooking and a garden. um, I love it. It was just a wonderful experience. Yeah. And it was a personal story of his. So it's now running through all the festival circuits and getting a lot of great responses.
Oh, that's awesome. It's really
Mm.
great to hear. And I was reading up on the film, and it sounds really cool. I mean, it's about the relationship between a father and his son, and
Mhm.
while also honoring Puerto Rican culture and heritage. And I think, and I would imagine that this is such a cool project to work on, something that carries such great meaning.
Oh yeah, very, very proud, proud people. And part of why Enrique wanted to also make this film was not just to not to heal his own personal story with his father, which was his father was incarcerated for his whole childhood and is in and out of prison, and um, it wasn't a great relationship at all. But he got to um, connect before he died with his father and help him, and so really healed a lot of that childhood trauma. And I think one of the reasons why he wanted to make this film was to also reach out to the Puerto Rican male community too, because his wife in real life was very supportive of Enrique to seek help and really heal this relationship with his father through therapy, through prayer, through anything and everything. So I think it was also a shout out and a message, a support system for those who, I mean, who doesn't? Everybody has some kind of family trauma that you're aware of and or not aware of, and trying to make amends and move on. So I think it was a very universal story told through his personal lens.
As we were talking just a little bit before we started recording, sadly, 2 months ago in
Mm.
February, we lost Tom Noonan. Truly, just a one of a kind person, someone whose legacy will live on forever. Looking back on all the time that you spent with Tom, from the original What Happened Was stage play to the film and everything beyond. What stood out to you the most about Tom as a person?
Oh. Ah. Be okay not fitting in. Accept your uniqueness. Less is more. Honesty is the key. Yeah, that's when I think of him, what he's taught me, the essence of Tom.
It's such an incredible film because because I mean it's very simple as we were talking about. It's just you and him, and for you and Tom to just create such a captivating piece of cinema. It's I mean that's truly incredible.
Yeah, the we built a lot of trust when we created the characters on stage, off Broadway, and didn't change any word or anything when we developed it, when made a film of it. So um, because he was also director and writer and actor, he had to have lots of hats. And when I look back, he was he had to trust me a lot, and I had to trust him. To be able to be present, but also aware of everything that's going on. I think he did a really amazing job. We always wanted to work on what happened next, but never got to do that. He did write the script, and yeah, so
Yeah, I was actually going to ask about that, like the sequel that never was. If that had
yeah.
ever happened, how do you think it would have turned out?
Well, he had written a script. It was just funding, you know. Hard to get films made. Hard to, I mean, my gosh, how many independent features I've done, and people have taken out second mortgages, and I mean, we hear all the stories, right? Taking out loans and all of that stuff. So I really don't know. The he had written it, and it was my role wasn't as big. It's like, so I was like, um, but as a whole, it would have been really cool, really really cool. But he never got around to doing it.
In your opinion, what do you think your character Jackie is up to in 2026?
Oh my gosh, what a question. Um, I think that my character, Jackie, would have, even though she came from, a lower income, lower, non-educated family, I think she would have kept up with what's going on. I think that she would be, you know, maybe a little obsessive with certain things, really like the fad, anything that's a fad. I think she would really go into it. But then she might go into these real, not depressions, but I think reflective, dark periods of, because I think that Jackie is a very isolating person to begin with. I think her natural state is alone, and that's the the double edge there, right? Which is what the awkwardness of that first date of what happened was, is so much, it's like the need and the desire to connect, but not knowing how. So I think that she would have, my character in 2026, 32, 3 years later, I think would have, gone on through all the yoga and through all retreats. I think she would be doing all these things, and getting extra community college and education. But I think that she'd still, on a certain level, be kind of alone, if that makes sense. Not depressing, but I think she would try everything, but then end up probably, you know, probably not in a relationship, not having children, but she'd be okay. And she probably would have written a lot of children's books,
Hmm.
believe it or not. Yeah.
Yes, indeed. I also must make mention that the film uses one of my favorite songs of Voices Carry.
I know, I love
Oh my
that song.
gosh, what
Every
a
time I hear that song, I'm catapulted back to the screen and the stage. I mean, it's like it's so in my DNA, my cells. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm curious, are you yourself a fan of Till Tuesday and Amy Mann?
I mean, I am only because of the film, just because of doing the film. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And it's funny because when I was watching it, Jackie says that music is where some of the best writing is, and
Yeah.
I think that can kind of describe Amy Mann, who is one of the, at least for my money, one of the, great singer-songwriters.
Hmm. Hmm. Well, I'll definitely look into her more. Definitely. Yeah. But
Yeah,
that
she,
song for me, whew.
yeah, definitely one of my favorites. And whenever it comes on in the car, it's like, yeah,
Yeah,
like
it
yeah.
puts you right back into this headspace or something, doesn't it? It's very interesting.
Let's go back to the beginning. How did you first get interested in acting? Where did that interest first spark for you?
In the church. I was just thinking about this the other day. It was the safe place for my mother to kind of drop me while she was at work or at herself in the church singing. So I got involved through the theater there doing, they always did musicals there. So I was tiny, tiny, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 doing my first musicals with her as well. So I would be with her during rehearsals and, it was a place for me to go. And when it really clicked in for me is when my mom, my parents divorced and I was 10 and I moved to the suburbs in Long Island I was brought up in Brooklyn, and I moved there during the next 8 years, and she put me into a theater group for the summer, and that's where I met my mentor at 10. So he was kind of like a father role model on a certain level, but a teacher who was my acting teacher, who was also an English teacher, who was he created the community theater there. So I just ended up doing everything and anything on stage during the summer, during the year. I was nonstop doing plays. And I think that was my mother's way of giving me what she couldn't have because her father, immigrants from Norway and Sweden, basically said, you need to get a real job and a day job, and you need to make insurance. You need to have insurance, medical insurance. So at 15, she left high school. She went into secretarial school and just became, this glorified secretary, kind of like my character Jackie. Um, and but she was an amazing singer. But her father, my grandfather, just wouldn't let her do it professionally. So she sang in the churches and soloists and anything she could do, and then theater. So I think that's really when I was doing summer theater with George Dorsey, who has since passed, and that's when I got the bug. So, and then in high school, I just did all of the plays and I just loved it. Singing, dancing as well. Um, that's where it started.
Growing up, were there any specific actors who were inspirations to you?
I think that my real, the actors I really gravitated towards were ones that were at that time in the 70s, let's say, um, more naturalistic. Like there was a real naturalism coming. And since my mother was so into the whole musical part of things, and I did sing and dance and play the piano and the flute, and I don't know, I gravitated towards the more reality based, So when I was able to, in the late 70s, early 80s, see certain films, it was Meryl Streep that caught me, immediately. I think for a lot of us actors who were in their 60s. Um, and, Jessica Lange. I think that, Jenna Rollins, those kinds of roles and actors who I felt could really transform themselves. That really inspired me. That just got me going. Yeah.
Have you ever thought about the fact that that perhaps you're an inspiration to like to actors today who like watch your films?
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I've definitely been told that what happened was changed their lives or made them want to be an actor or made them want to be a filmmaker. Um, So I've heard that a lot. I am back in acting class for the last plus 1 years, and it's been so fabulous. I'm the oldest one. Oh, there's one other older woman, but it definitely. I've been told that they've seen a lot of my work. So yeah, it's. I hope so. That's what it's about. I'm here to inspire and to activate, right? To make people feel and be reflective and um, look at themselves and look at others.
You went on to attend Purchase College, and this is the same college that your husband attended, and is also the which is really cool.
Yeah.
And it's also the same place where you met Hal Hartley, paving the way for your roles in
Mhm.
his films. Um, what memories stick out to you the most from your college days?
Oh my goodness. There's so many and there's not enough time. Oh, I mean, I didn't really know my husband then. I knew Ivan Minshall, he's a writer. I knew of his work because I'd seen a couple one acts of his that actually ended up being full length Broadway play called Cemetery Club. But he had done in undergrad before Yale, he had worked on a few one acts there, and I knew him through that, and he knew me through my freshman scene. So it was very, everybody, the drama department and the writing and the filmmaking, we all were very, very connected on many, many levels. Um, so that was Ivan. Hal, we weren't supposed to work with the filmmakers as the acting company. We were supposed to stay strictly in theater, but quietly. I don't even remember. Somebody just reminded me that I just did it anyway. I did Hal's senior thesis, and we did a couple plays together. We did some films, even back then, when he was creating his posse of people as to this day, Robert, Bobby Burke, and Edie Falco, and Bill Sage, and the whole lot of us. Um, so that was a lot of fun. I mean, I was brought up in the mentorship there. It was a real experimenting time that they were trying to do at SUNY Purchase in the late 70s, early 80s, and mid 80s. This thing called the mentor, where you would have one teacher for 4 years. I mean, you would have other speech and voice coaches and movement coaches and all that stuff, teachers, but our class, I think, was the last class that ever had it. Our mentor only went for 2 years due to specific things we're not going to talk about on this program. But I was heavily, our company, who I'm very close with still. In fact, moving back east has been one of the biggest blessings, is that I'm back in touch with all of my group, all of my purchase people. I mean, two of my best friends that were not my best friends in college are right over the border, right in New York, right here, the Westchester, Connecticut border. So their kids and my kids are friends, and we have gatherings all the time. Love those women. And it's so amazing after 40 years to come back into each other's lives, at this time in our lives. So that's been really such an amazing blessing. I mean, oh yeah, method. It was all about the method, so sense memory and very realism approach, Uta Hagen. And so we would do a lot of these exercises, these sense memory exercises, pretending we were in the war in Vietnam, and we'd dress the entire class up with branches and paint our faces and you know, do these kind of realistic kind of things. But you know, overall, just working together, you know, being in just play after play after play, and um, and then being able to work with Hal during that period too. It was really when we were all just students, you know. It's really remarkable.
Yes, yes. What would you say were the most important things you learned in college that would benefit you in your career moving forward?
Oh, that's a great question, Sam. So I would say number one, discipline, commitment, follow through, faith, community. All of those things are relevant to this day. I think for anybody in the arts, anybody who, you know, is working to be an actor, you know, is got to be disciplined. That's why I'm in class. You know, you just because you never know when you're going to work or not work. And I felt that it was time for me to get, you know, just keep being limber. You know, I work out, I train, I practice yoga. You know, you got to do the same thing as an actor. And it's hard when as actors, if we're not writing our own material or directing our own material, or right nowadays it's kind of assumed you got to create your own stuff. You just have to. And that's why I'm doing. That's why I'm starting to produce. That's why I'm working with the Paradise Factory Theater group. Of course, I'm always with the Actors Studio. So whatever projects that are going on, you know, there's always creating our own. Working on a new project for myself. So there's a lot of coals in the fire. Um, I think as actors and just in general artists, we just have to create our own work more now than ever.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, very well said. And that's, it's something that when I was doing research for this, that's something that I really respect about you is that you are a creative at heart, and you love having your hands in various different pots. You do a variety of stuff, and I think that's so awesome, and it's something that I can relate to you as well.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you're not just one thing, right? I mean, if you look at the course of your life, you're many things at different times to different people in different ways, right? It's very natural and organic. I think when we're younger, we're so like, at least personally, I was just like, I've got to be gone, you know, and that holding on and that attachment and that agenda didn't serve me. I had to let that go, you know, and that's the beauty of being an actor too, you know, just being in the moment. So I train to be in the moment. Isn't that an amazing job? Like, how remarkable. I get to be in the moment. Anything can happen, but I have to be ready for it and have to be disciplined. I have to train for it, right? Especially nowadays, as we were starting our conversation out earlier about the distraction of, you know, and just in general, the news, the noise, the everything outside of us, you know, we have to train to get internal and listen and be quiet, right? Because then we can hear and then we can create, and that's where the inspiration comes from.
And another thing I wanted to mention is that you and your husband love to give back. Um, you and your husband love to give back to Purchase, which is
Yes.
really cool. Supporting the current students and just what does that mean to you to give back to your school?
Well, it's our responsibility. They gave to us, you know, and we love supporting the younger generation of writers and, for my husband and of actors because we know we were there in the beginning, you know. Also to serve as role models of once again that you know you may start out with some ideal, an idea and vision of what you want, and sometimes your life doesn't necessarily go in that direction, especially in this kind of profession. This is a hard profession. These are hard professions. Um, but to be accepting of the change is really important, and to um, allow and accept the change and the choices that life is not just one straight line. It's all over. It moves.
Let's get into Under Suspicion. We were talking a bit about this before we got started, but you had never auditioned for a TV series before this show, and you end up landing the starring role as Phil. What do you remember from the audition process?
Well, as I recall, I think I did audition. I think I know because I wore a leather jacket, as I recall, like a year before I actually got the offer I auditioned and then got the offer. Um, I don't know. I gave a really bad audition. I don't know. I was never good at auditioning. Was not. I got this job because of what happened because Lisa Freiberger, who was the head of casting for CBS in the 90s, she came to Sundance Film Festival. I don't know if casting directors do that anymore, maybe. Um, and and she went back to CBS and Warner Brothers and said, "I found this woman," and da da da. So they asked Tom to send the only reel of film that existed to LA for them to see, Warner Brothers, and I think they only got through half of the movie. Uh, so that was a year later, though, that Sundance was, and they flew me out, and I went straight to Jeff Zagansky, who was the head of CBS then, and I read for him, and it was very, I don't know, I'd never been in LA before. I had such a judgment about LA. I mean, oh my God, for a New Yorker, I was like, whoa, I'd be like another blonde. I don't know. It was such a silly, immature, but whatever. Um, and I remember wearing just a regular, men's t-shirt, and I had a black jacket and black skirt and high heels, and I just went in, no stockings, no makeup, maybe a little lipstick, and I read, and now then I went. It was sent immediately to Warner Brothers on the lot, and that's where I met the creator producer, Jackie Zambrano, who I hung out with just recently in Maui, and the whole Les Moonves, who was the head of Warner Brothers then, and all of Warner Brothers back then. There was no Zoom auditions. It was everything is in person, and there's tons of people in the room, and I walked in, and they immediately said, "We loved you, and what happened was." But what happens? We didn't see the whole thing. Do you kill him? Like that. And I was like, what film did you see? So,
Oh,
I was like, first of all, how did I end up here as Rose Phillips, Detective Rose Phillips, from Jackie, the character, the executive assistant as from Queens? Like I didn't understand that. But they obviously, now I understand what they saw. But um, so then basically, I read for them, and as I'm walking out, they're all shaking my hand, and I was like, "What's going on?" Like, "Oh, congratulate! Oh, congratulate!" And I thought, get on the phone with my agent, and I was like, "What's going on?" "Well, you've been offered the role, Karen." "Oh my God!" But they didn't even ask me. I was so naive. I had no idea. I'd done a little TV here and there and some soaps and what every actor does when they're starting out in New York. Um, but so that was a big eye opener. So yeah, so the audition experience was supported because they saw my work, right? The film, what happened was. So I had that, they knew what I was capable of. And then it was just, let's see how she is and her personality and in the room, which, I think is really important. How do you take direction? How do you look people in the eye? Are you funny? Are you, like, who are you? It's a different feeling than on camera, when you tape yourself.
yeah, yes, it definitely is. And gosh, and this show, I mean, it's it's amazing. You're amazing in it, and the production is fantastic. I mean, everything is done like a movie. It's very cinematic.
Yeah, yeah. It's they worked very hard at making it a film noir, um, feeling, look, and based on Helen Mirren's the English production Prime Suspect. I don't know if you were aware of that. Yeah, it was based on, but an American version of
Right.
that. So, yeah, it was a very specific tone and look for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's really well executed, and I was reading an article that said you had creative input as well, and you were like assisting with rewrites and stuff like that.
Don't tell Jackie. No, she was there, of course. No, I mean, yes, I was. I was very well. It was my show. I was the lead, and that's just the natural way that I uh, morphed. I became the lead of the show. So um, I had an opinion. I created a character in front of everybody's eyes and mine. Um, of course, very hands-on with the showrunner, Jackie Zimbrano, and creative producer. So the writing and the writers. So I had a lot to say. I mean, if they were having a hard time in the writing room, I would give my 2 cents and help write, um, help cast, and of course, wardrobe, makeup, hair. They want it. It's a collaboration, a collaborative effort because it's an original piece. Not an adaptation of anything in that way. Well, it was based on Prime Suspect, but a very different idea. American woman, younger, different time, very different look. And but the beauty of that show, not just the look of the film noir, um, but seen through a woman's eyes, right? So
Yeah.
it's created and written and conceived and produced by a woman, and the lead is a woman. So we hadn't had any of that. In Hollywood. You had Cagney and Lacey, which was a two female cop show. But this was very, very different. And that the creator producer, Jackie Zambrano, is a woman. And, there's a lot of pros to that, a lot of cons. How do you. It's interesting because the life of the series was paralleling a little bit of the life in the series of the character. How does a woman sees homicides and murder and life differently than a man? How do they proceed? How do they question? So it was very, very specific through the lens of a female, of a woman, on many, many levels. So that was very exciting to play. That was a lot of fun.
Yes, yeah, yeah, and and like I said, it is a tremendous show. Filming was done in Portland, and I
Mhm.
read that during production you lived in a farmhouse.
Where are you getting all this material? Oh my God. Um, yes. Well, I just felt working the 15 plus hours, sometimes more. I didn't want to be in town, in Portland and with the other cast members. Love them all, but see them all day. So about a half an hour up the mountain, there was a 1700 18th century farmhouse, English farmhouse that was fully furnished. And I mean, I'm a Brooklyn kid, brought up in a freaking rental apartment, Uh, I mean, I had never seen anything like this in my life. There was potbelly stoves in every room, and it was just the perfect. I don't, and it was a 50-acre farm with every like 50 different kinds of fruits and berries and cows and barns and white owls, and it was such a beautiful balance to be in this major network show as a lead and go home um, to this country paradise, where I'm chopping wood and carrying water, back to the basics of, out of town, in nature. So I think on a certain level, now that I'm think about it, like my unconscious, my soul probably needed that in order to find balance.
Have you ever been back to the farmhouse?
No, but I think about it a lot of funny stories on that farm. Oh my God. Just like, I turned one of the barns into a gym because part of my character, Rose Phillips, was I could kick any of the men detectives' asses, and I could in reality. So I boxed and I trained. I had a trainer come at like 3:30, 4 in the morning, and then also come during lunch. And no, I was tough. I was very fit. Um, um, but there were stories like, living on the farm, and it was we had when I moved in there, there were cows, but they were the grazing cows and milking cows. And so there you'd be here like all the time, and the smell and the waft of manure and things like that. But it was nice. I was very balancing. I'd go out in the middle and like hang with them in the mud. I did film shoots in the mud, all that kind of stuff. And there was one. It was around Christmas holiday time, and um, the previous owners had left like a few sheeps and lambs and roosters and chickens and the cows. And so I had the local pastor came knocking on my door, and asked if he could borrow the sheep for his nativity scene for the Christmas show. And I just was like, sure. I was just like, okay, you really know you're in the country. Um, yeah, it was really really wonderful to be able to literally chop wood and make a fire at night, and have the whole cast and crew come over when I wanted them, and big dinners. We always had big dinners. It was fabulous.
Now, unfortunately, the show, it only lasted 18 episodes and it ends on a cliffhanger, with you being shot.
Yeah.
If the show had continued, what direction would you like to have seen the show take?
Wow, I haven't really thought about that. I mean, probably back then I was full of ideas. I think I would have, Phil, my character, would have once again been a woman of the times to keep up with what is going on. I wanted to see um, more challenges with the patriarchy, shall I say. Um, and I would have liked to have seen more personal life of Phil. If you remember, there's not a lot of personal life. You see her coming home to her
Right.
apartment. You see her a scene with her father, estranged father, things like that. I would have liked to have melded a little bit more of um, her personal life, because one of the descriptions in the pilot was, with Rose Phillips, Detective Rose Phillips, still waters run deep. I wanted to go deeper in those waters. I think I would have liked a lot more, you know, personal story, backstory.
Yeah, I think I really think it's a show that really should have lasted longer. I
Yeah,
think
well,
I think, gosh, that would have been so cool.
believe me, I wish it lasted longer too. But once again, that's the nature of this business. That was the year in 94 to 95. we had three different execs move in and out of CBS. So it started with Jeff Zugansky, and it moved to Peter Tortorici, and then ended up with Leslie Moonves. And we know what happened to Leslie Moonves. He's no longer working in the business. He was kind of Me Too'd. And there, it was complicated with him. I think he had an idea of what he wanted to see, and rightfully so. As an exec, you get to do that, and that's what you're paid to do and looked up to do. But to a fault, I think. Well, I know he and the creative producer, the showrunner Jackie Zambrano, had a falling out, and that's why we didn't get a second series. I'm sure, a second season. Good girl, not being a good girl. Because, I mean, Jackie is one, and she still is, a friggin' ball buster. She's from Queens. She's a survivor. She's a female, producer. And back in the 90s, there weren't a lot of them. She paved the way for a lot of us. And she also didn't know how to take her own advice. The show was about a woman in a male world of cops, and in the TV world of men producers and directors and stars and leads. So Jackie sometimes bristled the wrong way to men. Um, and I think that's what happened with her and Leslie Moonves, who was the network head for that year. So I think that has a lot to do with why we didn't get extended. But then again, what do you know? You never know. TV was beginning to change too in the mid late 90s radically. So live in the present.
In this era of like where all the crowdfunding is a huge thing. Like, gosh, who says there can't be a second season? Who
Oh,
says they
yeah.
can't who says they can't continue the story?
Yeah, I mean they can. They just go with somebody 30 years younger. I'll be the mother. I'll play the mother who was a cop. That's a good idea. I'll present it to Jackie Zambrano when I talk to her next, which will be probably this weekend. And I'll pitch it. I'll pitch it, Sam.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay?
go ahead and do that. Go
She's
ahead.
still writing. She still writes. Yeah.
Yes. And like I was telling you earlier, all 18 episodes of the show are on the Internet Archive. So
Hmm.
anyone who wants to watch the series can check it out. It's all right there.
Yeah. Thank you for that plug. I'm going to watch it too.
Yes, for sure, for sure. Now let's get into T11 Incomplete. This is a wonderful film. Your performance is fantastic, and your role in the film, it was written for you,
Mm.
and you also created the backstory for your character. What was your approach to coming up with the backstory for Kate?
Well, I worked very closely with the director, Suzanne Guassi, which I love to do. Love collaboration. It's really the only way. Um, so she had a very specific idea about who Kate was based on somewhat personal. Um, and she gave me books to read. One was The Good Nurse. I don't know if you're familiar with that book. It was made into a movie as well. The nickel and dime, something about, just the socioeconomic bracket that my character Kate was in. The background of her being an alcoholic and being sober in the program for 10 years. Um, um, Her being a nurse's aide, and single mother, and having made mistakes and having to deal with that at this point in her life. So I worked with Suzanne very closely on those specifics, and she even sent me a pair of Kate's nurse sneakers a year before we shot. well, just about 10 months before we shot the film. So I had two pairs of sneakers. So I would wear them in. So when we were shooting on day one, they looked like sneakers that were worn in because well, first of all, what a pride, what an amazing thing to do as an actor. I mean, to be able to wear the shoes of your character, we use everything as actors, right? Our wardrobe, our shoes, our makeup, our hair, not just the internal work that we do, right? So to work with this director on that level was just so exciting and supporting to the way that I like to work too. Um, and there was a scene in the film about her shoe, that there's not enough money to buy new sneakers. She has to glue the heel back on. So it was very symbolic and on those levels. And yeah, so that's kind of the work that I did leading up to day one of shooting. And then also very clear about you know the energy of Kate being very, very different than the energy of Karen, and I think I worked about 26 days with one day on a weekend off, but 26 days, and they one day there I came back. I don't think I filmed one day out of the 28 days that we shot. And I came back having one day off, and I was like, "Hey, everybody, how you doing?" On the set, and just my bubbly self and everything. And we started to rehearse the first scene of the day, and Suzanne just turned to me and she was like, "Where's Kate?" And I was just like, "Oh, yeah." Like I had to. So there was a real communication on that. For the most part, I was in character just because she's very, very she's not me, she's parts of me, but yeah, she's not me. um and another a funny anecdote, personal part here, if I may, which I look back now because I'm 4 years sober now. Karen, me. I decided that I didn't want to, the pandemic for me just pushed me over the edge, and I drank a lot of wine. And when I moved from the West Coast to the East Coast, which was about almost 5 years ago, this June, something inside of me just went, "This is not good. Like, this is progressive. This is out of hand." So what is interesting is when I think about the character Kate, I was still drinking then. I mean, I didn't drink and work, but I was able to function, but I was developing a problem, and it's in my family and yada yada whatever. Um, and so as an actor playing the character of a woman who's 10 years sober, I didn't really know. Now I would know how to approach Kate probably a lot better, even, or deeper than I did back then. I went so far as to, because we filmed it, what, 8 years ago, 7 years ago, something like that, 8, 7. Um, I went to my local AA store in in Los Angeles, and I got the big book and the 10 and 10, like, to have on set as props for my character, thinking, "Oh, let me read them and I'll figure it out." And at the end of the shoot, and before we moved, I think I donated them back to the library. I didn't even. Now I have my own personal copies. I just think it's just so funny how life imitates art, art imitates life, and we're different things at different times in our lives. And I'm very grateful that I'm sober. I think I've never been happier, and um, so yeah, a little personal thing there, but it is kind of funny that I was playing this alcoholic, and I didn't really know, I didn't understand, I didn't know what it meant, but an alcoholic that was sober, and now I'm myself don't drink. Never been happier. So
I wanted to bring up the relationships in the film because the film does a great job bringing bringing the relationships to life. And that is a huge credit to you, of course, in your scenes with Kristen and Zach portraying a love story, and then also a fractured mother-son relationship. Um, Both are very, very well executed.
Oh, I'll let Suzanne know that. She would love to hear that. I
Yeah.
think that the movie touched a lot of people on that level, you know. Um, yes, Suzanne made it very she really tried to cast and also have her team all on the same level of female. She's lesbian. She wanted to have as many women on the set, whether she was a lesbian or not. A lot of gay women. It's a story about a gay women, but it's a story also about just love and connection, and once again healing past trauma. And you know it's interesting speaking with you about that because so much of the work when I reflect back on anything that I've done or I'm proud of or I want to do more of, it's always something to do with healing of some kind of trauma, some kind of you know um, deep emotional or physical trauma. I seem to be drawn to that. But yeah, in T11, definitely those relationships needing repair on so many levels, you know.
Has a very authentic feel to it.
Mm.
Feels very, very real.
Hmm. Yeah, and that's what Suzanne and I we were going for is just as grounded as possible and um the this kind of the subtleness of it too, you know, always bring back the humanity, the imperfections, you know, those parts of ourselves that we don't really want to show other people, but that we all have, you know, and that's the humanness. I find that that's very much what this movie brought out in a lot of people, you know.
I guess the film it's relatively light on exposition, and it's much more about showing than telling. And I think in a way it's actually very powerful how the storytelling is done in the film.
That's a great observation, Sam. That really is. You're right. There really isn't a lot of exposition. I think the most exposition is like that when my cat dies,
Mm.
and I think I'm talking to the cat, and I think I give some exposition about moving and ex-husband and something like that. Some kind of, but you're right. I don't think there's a lot of exposition at all. Hmm. Which is cool. You know, you get to, um, yeah, really create behavior, which is what I love to do.
Yeah. You know, the ending of the film is it's also pretty open-ended, the ending. Kind of allowing the viewer, I guess, to
Mhm.
come up with their own interpretation of what happens after. But in your mind, where does Kate's journey go after the film ends?
Oh, I think she does a lot more of um, parenting and being really present there for her grandchild because she couldn't be there for her son. I think she would be doing probably the same kind of work that she could get her hands on if they would let her back in. If not, no pride in doing anything to just make up for the years lost with her son, with her grandson. I think that it would be all family is everything.
I actually really like that scene it's near the end where Kate's working at the diner and
Yeah.
then she sees that a customer left their wallet on the table And there's a split second when you're like, oh no, is
Right.
but is she gonna take it for herself? But then she runs out and and she gives it back to the customer. It was nice to see that growth there from the character.
And also in the last scene in the water, right? That whole symbolic thing of I never swam and I never taught my son how to swim. And now I'm in the water with my grandson and um we wanted to shoot that thing very, very differently. But budget, some kind of drone or some kind of live uh, dolly shot or something. We couldn't really get any of that, but the essence is there of the sea of possibilities, right? Literally and symbolically, that the water of acceptance and surrender, forgiveness, right? New creation, a new time. Yeah.
How do you think you yourself would get along with the characters that you play? Characters like Kate, Phil, and Jackie.
Oh my God, that's so funny. You are asking some very interesting questions. Um, I mean, they're all parts of me, right? Um, I think I'd get along with them fine because I get along with all the parts of me now, I'm so I'm okay. I'm accepting of all of it. I mean, yeah, they're all parts of me and they're all parts of other people, just reflections of humanity. Um, so yeah, I think I'd get along with them fine. hmm I wouldn't want to, spend too much time with them, but
Yoga is a huge and important part of your life. How did you first start doing yoga?
mm, well, uh, Anthony DeSanto, who is one of my actors on my co-actors on my show Under Suspicion in 1994, when I was working out like a fiend and boxing and all of that, um, said to me at the end of I don't know an 18-hour day or I don't know what it was, and he just looked at me and said, "You need yoga. You need yoga. Like you are going to burn up. You're going to burn alive, yourself alive. It's so intense and so on fire." And I just was like, what the hell is he talking about? Um, but I listened and the next job I booked, not the immediate next, because the next one I think was Female Perversions with Tilda Swinton. Um, when I worked on The Beast in Australia, I I thought, well, they're offering me 3 months in Sydney, Australia, working with Billy Peterson on Peter Benchley's, from who wrote Jaws. He wrote The Beast. And it was on NBC. So, um, and they usually gave us money for trainers back then. Not anymore, I don't think, but because I was playing a Coast Guard lieutenant and I had to wear scuba gear, had to be, and so scenes were going to be underwater and out of water and everything. So they gave me this 3 times a week. They gave me an amount of money. And so instead of a trainer, I got a yoga teacher. I thought, well, let me check out this yoga thing that Anthony's telling me I need so much of. And 3 days a week on the top of like the 29th floor in Darling Harbor in Sydney, when I wasn't, on the days I wasn't working or I would go in later, I had this short, fiery red haired teacher come to my door and one on one teach me the practice of yoga, Ashtanga yoga. And it just radically shifted my entire life. The way I ate, I mean, I lost like 3 inches around the waist while I was filming. that's a lot, you know? So my wardrobe people on the set were like, what are you doing? And they had to keep on like creating new, waistbands and everything. But that's where meditation really kicked in. I just, my food changed, my nighttime, my everything, who I was hanging out with. I got it. I got the transmission of what the practice was. One on one. And to this day, like I said, I have a daily practice. And it has definitely saved me many, many times and held me and guided me. So yeah, I have a lot of gratitude for Anthony on the show saying that I really needed yoga because I did and I do.
That's awesome to hear.
Yeah.
What are the biggest what are some of the biggest benefits that yoga has brought to your life?
Oh, I think once again, um, acceptance of what is, allowing, um, being in the moment, listening, being present, um, connecting with breath and the body, right? To make space, strength, flexibility, um, and to have like basically the tenets of yoga are really the foundation of everything. But even in acting, if I think about the parallels, you have to take care of yourself as an actor, right? How you eat, what you eat, when you eat, how you treat the people around you, your community, and how you treat yourself. Exercise, moving the body and the breath, very important. Focus, concentration. These are all the yamas and the niyama, the limbs of yoga. It's the same thing in acting. It's discipline, no harm, um, acceptance, meditation, and being so focused that you're in the present moment. So yeah, I guess I never made those parallels, but that's really what it brings the most. And then the health benefits of just, science is all over the place about that. Um, so yeah, it's a good way to live.
In addition to everything that we've been talking about here, you're also a mother. What has that journey meant to you, being a parent, raising your kids, and watching them grow up?
Uh, it's the hardest job on the planet and the most important one. Um, the most important one for me. Um, and the most creative. Um, and I have learned so much about myself. I never wanted children. I was so career oriented and work oriented my whole life. I never really wanted children. And I had some childhood stuff with my sister, and my mother would always say to me, wait till you have kids or something like that. And I think I heard that way too many times. And I thought, I'm never having kids then. If that's what, if this is what, having kids is like, this is not for me. I'm not cut out for it. Until I met my husband Ivan. I did not want children. So it was really meeting him and vice versa. He never wanted children either. So we just knew we were supposed to be parents. So, to this day, we have a remarkable understanding of, we're on the same page about everything when it comes to these kids. So we are very like reparenting ourselves through our children. And it's the biggest gift. It's the biggest gift on the planet. It is. it is remarkable. I think the hardest thing for a parent and for me is just having faith and trusting that they're on their own path and they're on their own, they have their own dharma, their own, their own creator, right? That my work only goes so far, and my modeling is my modeling, and that's all I can do. That I think the hardest thing is really just trusting that they're going to be okay, like not worrying that, worst case scenarios or catastrophe or anything like that. I think that's a really hard muscle to work. So every day, and the fact that my husband and I are on the same page really really helps. Right? There's no we're like okay, but you just never know. It's yeah, it's a lot to learn. I learn a lot from them, a lot.
Looking back on all that you've done in your career, in your life, what has given you the greatest sense of fulfillment?
Mm. Oh my God, I'm going to need a nap after this interview. Oh my God. Fulfillment. Oh, just one thing, fulfillment. I think it's knowing who I am. The greatest fulfillment for me is knowing that there is more than this physical world, right? That we can touch and see and consume and do. It's the fulfillment is in the embracing the unknown, and that there is something bigger out there and in here that I do not control. And the fulfillment is understanding every day that I can only control what is in my control, and that it's my reaction to things. So it's yeah, it's deep. It's like I am everything and I am nothing. It is everything is spiritual to me. Everything is sacred to me. Everything means something and nothing to me. So I think that's the biggest fulfillment, is that daily uncovering and recovering of the understanding of why I'm here on this planet. What is my purpose? What is my meaning? The fulfillment is in that quest of fulfilling my purpose on this planet. And I may think I know what it is, or what it was, or what it will be, but as long as I stay aligned on a daily basis with my own lifestyle choices and practices, then I can listen enough to lean into it, to be of service.
Now, the last question I have for you is, what is the biggest piece of advice that you have for aspiring actors?
Oh, yeah. Um, a lot of things, but starting with the self. Know who you are, and if you don't know who you are, find out. How do you find out? Self-realization, reading, watching movies, plays, reading, writing, um, finding your people, your community, telling your story, knowing what your story is, finding your purpose as an actor, as a human being. My acting coach, John Dapolito, calls it the acting niche. He teaches the acting niche. Like when you find your niche of where you are, right? Like I just shared with you for the last hour or whatever, hour and a half. a bit of who I am, right? So you could probably guess that my niche is playing women who are strong on the outside. They look like it. They present one way, but they're broken and wounded on the inside. And there's some duplicity around that, right? Now, I've been drawn to this kind of work my whole life, but until I met John Dapolito, my acting coach and friend, that came up to light. Now I can look at material and understand why I'm drawn to that work, and that actually that is a role that is correct for me, and I can go more on that. It's not about typecasting. It's different than what I mean, but typecasting, it's knowing where your niche is, where your soul speaks to yourself. And that's what I would recommend. I'd recommend all young actors to check out johndapolito.com. No, I mean, yes, he's remarkable in helping the actor pinpoint and discover um, their uh, their essence of who they are. I mean, if you look at all the great actors, right? They do their thing. Meryl Streep does Meryl Streep's thing in all the characters that she plays. I mean, it's just so finding out who you are is very important, and as an actor, as a human being. So it's the same thing. I would tell a young person the same thing about becoming advice to becoming having a fulfilling life as well as to an actor who, good advice to an actor. It's find out who you are and how you work and who your people are and why you're here. And then you'll figure out why you do everything you do. And then things click in, and then you're jamming and you got the thing going. You know what I mean? It's just like everything just comes up and opportunities and the stars align. Like I'm not really sure what my next project is specifically. I'm working on a couple things, but there's cultivating the trust and the knowing that as long as I keep on my daily practice and journey and classes and study, and you never stop, right? Artists don't stop. Um, we don't retire, we just get better.
Gosh, this has been a tremendous honor and truly a privilege to speak with you today. This has been a blast.
You too, Sam. This has been a blast for me as well.